and welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and as you can see, we're not out driving today. I'm actually kind of parked up in my garden because we've been so busy with the move and everything. I've not really had a lot of opportunities to do a drive long enough in Peggy to record this podcast. So I thought I'd just sit and give it its full attention in the back garden for you guys today, because I think it's a really important topic that we actually start talking about a little bit more within the classic car scene, and hopefully advocating for ourselves a little bit more in relation to. And that, if you haven't already seen from the title, is recovery services. In the last kind of 4-5 months or so, I have had 3 friends, family members who have had to use a recovery service for their classic car. And whilst it's obviously something that we hope never happens, unfortunately sometimes it happens with our cars. To be honest, it happens with modern cars as well, and I think that's something that's sometimes overlooked when we're talking about this, because these problems that we are facing as classic car owners with some of the recovery services at the moment is obviously pretty bad, but it's the fact that they are also doing some of these things. Some of these things are going to be exclusive to the fact that you're in a classic car, but some of these things are universal for a service that we are paying for something that we're looking to kind of protect ourselves with, is kind of not very positive in terms of experiences. And I'd be grateful to hear any of your experiences in the comments, particularly if you've got positive ones, because I think a lot of people are really trying to scrutinize who they end up using as recovery services. So the first example is actually my sister, and this is where I first started to kind of clock on to that some of these recovery services aren't as good as they perhaps were in the past, and are not as helpful as you'd kind of hope they would be for the amount that a lot of us are paying for the privilege of using them. So this was a Thursday evening. And my sister lost kind of power in her Hillman Californian down where she lives, and so she'd just taken the car to use it for a couple of days and then bring it back. And so the car is registered at my parents' house. She was essentially using it in the same way that you would if you'd gone on a holiday kind of thing. So the car both was registered with the recovery company at my parents' house, and so she had this loss of power. She managed to get it pulled into some car parking spaces at the gym that she was heading to, and we did a couple of kind of quick diagnoses. We did a couple of quick diagnostics over the phone with her, because I was with my dad when she rang my dad to see kind of what was up. And we said, well, ring the recovery company and see what you get, and see if you can get it brought back to home, because she'd got her partner's car with her, so she was able to use that car for the rest of that week, and then go back to using her regular car when she swapped it over, kind of thing. So she rang the recovery service at about 8 o'clock on this Thursday evening, and I would say that that is not the peak time for when you would think most problems are going to be with a recovery service. You'd think maybe kind of weekends, holiday times when people are going away on holiday. Yeah, 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening, probably not their busiest time. But as seems to be the case whenever you ring them up, they are always facing unprecedented levels of calls. And I think that only works so far, because if you are always experiencing unprecedented levels of calls, perhaps you are just not having enough service available for the people that are registered to use your service. And they said that the earliest that someone would get to her would be midnight. And so that was 4 hours. 4 hours to wait for someone to get to her. And she was a single young woman in the middle of quite a busy area where there was going to be lots of people going past. And we ended up deciding that that was not ideal, and we would go and see if we could get to her before them, which wasn't going to be particularly difficult, and see if there was anything that we could do to get the car running and then bring it back. So we went down, did some more tests, took some things that we could swap out, and unfortunately none of them worked. It got to kind of midnight, and the callback was that someone was going to be there by I think about 1 o'clock. Bearing in mind we'd seen like 3 recovery trucks drive past by this point, it was getting a little bit frustrating. But someone turns up, and they attempt to do the same sort of tests on the car that we'd already done, and agree that yeah, the car's not going anywhere, and then asks us where the car needs to be recovered to. And so we say my parents' house, because that's where the car is registered at with them, and that's where it needs to be recovered to. And the person that they've sent admittedly does have a low loader that the car would have fitted on, but is only able to do short journeys. So they say we can't do it, and they are not working for this recovery company, they are a subcontractor, and they say we can't do it, we only do short local journeys or on the spot fixes, so you'll have to I'll let them know and then someone else will come. So the next estimation is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. for someone to come and collect the car. We figure that the streets are quiet enough and empty enough for us to attempt to tow the car to where my sister was staying for the week, so that at least she could wait inside, out of the way. We tell the recovery company that that's where the car is going to be and that they need to recover it from there. And so we get it towed to there and wait for the recovery company. So by 3 a.m. my sister has been waiting 7 hours for someone to come and get her and her car. As far as the recovery company is concerned, she has done a 7-hour wait to have her car recovered. Like, if you have set off in a morning to go to a show, if you've set off to go to work, that is your whole day gone. If you are like her, doing something in the evening and then expecting to go to work or whatever the following morning, you've got no sleep that night because you've been stood at the side of the road waiting for the opportunity to be recovered. 7 hours is awful, really. If you are paying for a service that already has quite a lot of limitations on the amount of times that you can be recovered in a year, the conditions under which you can be recovered, where you can be recovered to wait 7 hours for that service is just awful, really. But it gets worse with the other stories that I'm going to get onto, which, yeah. So that person comes at, I think it was about 3:30, and they take it literally the hour up the A1 to where it needs to be recovered to. It's just so terrible for a service that you are paying for to take that long. And nobody that we saw or interacted with, other than the person on the end of the phone, was from that recovery service. They were all subcontractors in this instance, which may well contribute to the delays and stuff that we're associating with it, but just 7 hours is incredible. So that's my first example. My next example is from Morris Minor National Weekend. And this has opened my eyes really to even more things that are going to be a problem for those of us who are driving classic cars. Because obviously both times a low loader turned up for my sister, so even if the guy the first time, in the very unlikely situation that your car has broken down a very short distance from home, that first instance, which was still kind of 4 hours after she'd broken down, would have gotten her home. But with most situations, you're breaking down, regardless of what car you're in, further away from home than 20 minutes, which was kind of their limit as to how far they would go. 20 minutes to kind of 30 minutes. So in that case, any car would have been waiting some time to go home. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not an expert on the capacities and stuff like that, but if her car had been a bigger car, the low loader that it went on at the end was perhaps not appropriate for a modern family vehicle. So I no idea whether that sped up or reduced the amount of time that she ended up waiting in that instance. But at Morris Minor National, Nathaniel, the new young members officer, had brought his Austin A35, and it seemed to be having a couple of running issues as we went out on the run that day. And then, as I mentioned in the podcast for Morris Minor National Weekend, he lost the clutch entirely on the car and was unable to get it to drive, obviously. And so he broke down initially on just after a very sharp bend and going up a hill. So really quite an awful place to end up breaking down. And he was incredibly fortunate that there was a group of young people who were car enthusiasts that he had the contact numbers for in the area that were able to go along and help him push car up the hill to a bit more safety. But he was essentially in the edge of a housing estate when he rang the recovery company and asked them to recover the vehicle. And when he spoke to them, they said, we can only recover it once, so we can either recover it from where you are to your campsite, or we can recover it from your campsite to home, which is a problem, because he was very fortunate that we had a young member who was around with a tow vehicle and a trailer who was able to help him out in that situation and get the car recovered from where it was currently broken down to the campsite, because he had all of his camping gear, he had all of his luggage and stuff like that, that if he had been recovered at the side of the road to home, which was a potential option, he would have had no way of getting that stuff home, apparently. no kind of coverage for that aspect. So he got really lucky, and he says, okay, well, I need recovering from this place, the campsite, the fire service college, to Newcastle. And they were like, okay, that's fine, we'll send someone round to do diagnostics. So bearing in mind, Nathaniel had broken down, I think, at around 11 o'clock-ish, 11 o'clock-ish in the morning. The first recovery person to appear happened at 9 p.m. in the evening. Now, admittedly, the car had been recovered to a site where it was able to stay for a bit of time, so perhaps that got bumped down the list. But they appeared at 9 p.m. at night with their van of things to do the initial checks, despite the fact that over the phone it had been made very clear that the clutch is gone. We know the clutch is gone. It's not going to be roadside fixable, but they insist on sending out someone to check if it is roadside fixable. So this person turns up and goes, oh, the clutch is gone, it's not roadside fixable. Correct, yes. So then they say, right, well, I can see if I can tow it to the recovery place. So they get out the little dolly thing that they've got that that goes under the wheels to be able to tow it. And they've recently been equipped with new ones of these, and they are too narrow for, well, the car is too narrow for these new dollies. So there is no way of getting a classic car on one of these dollies. I mean, most of us would prefer it going on the back of a low loader properly anyway, but for a short distance we would likely be okay with just getting the car out of a situation. I mean, if you're broken down at the side of a very busy road or whatever, those little dollies are incredibly helpful in terms of getting a car quickly moved out of potential danger. And the A35, and as we will later find out, the Morris Minor, are too narrow to use these now. And you can't say that the large majority of cars or whatever aren't going to be that size, because there is a lot of cars that are used that are classics, that are not even just as dailies, just as going out to a show or whatever, that may well require recovery, and they are buying these recovery services and are not going to be able to be rescued in those situations. So this person, arrives at 9 o'clock, agrees that yes, the clutch is gone, and that they cannot put the car on the dolly to get it home. So they then inform the recovery company that another vehicle needs to be sent, and so a recovery truck comes along at, I think it was about 1:30 in the morning, to recover the car. But the car gets recovered to a local recovery service, because again, it's not being done by people that are branded by this recovery company. It's being done by people who are subcontracted, and it actually goes further south than where we are, and proceeds to sit in a recovery yard there for several days before it is eventually taken back home. And during that time, Nathaniel is kind of looking at it on the tracker, but then his tracker is disconnected and he's getting no updates from the RAC at this point about when it's coming home. He's had to get a train home on the Sunday to get home, and he gets home obviously on the Sunday evening, and that is, admittedly, the train ticket is paid for by the recovery service as far as I'm aware, but he's got no updates coming through about when he can expect the car. They offer him a courtesy vehicle, but the courtesy vehicle is only available for like 1 day, and the car does not actually come back until several days after that. And you're thinking, well, if the car's not even up where he can work on it, or he can get it sent to somewhere to be worked on, then how on earth, if this was his everyday car like Peggy is mine, how on earth are they expecting him to get around? Because they have got his car, and his car is not able to be fixed on because it is still down further south than the Cotswolds. It's just, it feels so disjointed, so poorly thought out, so poorly planned, so poorly considered for the people that are paying what can be around £300 a year. And the reality is, none of the people that I'm talking about in these stories, as far as I'm aware, have used their recovery service any other time this year. So this might well be the only time that they use it this year, and Nathaniel ended up waiting nearly 6 days to have his car from when it broke down back home, and at that point would then have to send it off to be repaired or start the repairs himself. So that car is out of action for like probably a week easily, probably longer, and 4 or 5 days of that is through no fault of his own, through fault of the recovery company. It's just, I mean, the fact that the car couldn't get on the dolly is annoying, and it's something to be aware of, because you're if you're sat at the side of the road and expecting to be recovered safely and quickly, that might well be of a concern to you. But the whole lack of communication, the fact that it appeared that his tracker was disconnected, and that was the only way that he was getting any idea about where his car is, and the lack of actually providing a courtesy vehicle for a length of time that seemed appropriate for how long the vehicle was missing, is just, yeah, really not good. And I wish that was the end of it. But a day after National, Lewis had his head gasket go in a car park. Well, actually it went on the way to work, and he ended up pulling into a industrial estate car park, confirming that indeed it was the head gasket, and calling a recovery service. And said recovery service took about 5 hours on a Monday morning to get to him, and then again initially sends out someone, despite the fact that he said over the phone, it's the head gasket, I just need recovering, sends out someone to go, oh, I can't fix this, and I also cannot fit it on my dolly to tow it to anywhere else, so I will have to call a low loader and have you recovered that way, and that then takes another hour or so. So Lewis's entire day is spent in I think it was a Matalan car park, waiting for recovery services. And the really annoying thing is with Lewis's situation is that I know where the kind of local recovery actually branded to that particular recovery services low loaders are, because I had a few years ago, you might remember, my accelerator cable went, and I was seemingly quite fortunate to spend at 6 in the morning only 2 hours waiting for someone to come along, and weirdly got very lucky that when I explained the situation over the phone, they immediately went, oh, we can't do that, we'll just send a low loader as soon as that's available. And so that took them about 2.5 hours to get someone out to me at the side of the parkways in Peterborough, which isn't great, but I felt like it was a reasonably good service compared to obviously what I've heard since. And yeah, so I know where the trucks are, and for the time and stuff that he broke down, they should not, if they'd have just gone immediately, oh, your head gasket is blown and you're sure about that, we will just send you a low loader. It should not have taken as long as it did to get him home and get the car home. It's just kind of crazy that, again, like I said, we're paying for this service to seemingly protect ourselves, protect our cars, and instead we end up waiting hours and hours and hours for any kind of initial contact, and then to be told that what we've said is wrong is correct, and that they can't do anything about it, which you already knew potentially 4 or 5 hours ago, and that you are now going to have to wait another couple of hours before there is an opportunity for your car to get recovered. And then it could be days and days and days before that car makes it back home. If I was in Nathaniel's position and my car was out of action, like a few years ago, Peggy was our only car, and if that had happened, like, you'd have been totally stuffed. And so many young people who are getting into classics, their classic is their only car. They are dailying it, and they would hope to have a decent recovery option available to them. And if the car is going to take longer to get back to them for whatever reason, for the courtesy car that's made available to them, that they're paying for through the service, to be available to them for the length of time it takes that car to get back to them. It's just awful. If you have got a recovery service that you and several people have had excellent experiences with, I would love to know, because I am struggling to find one that will take our cars and has got positive reviews and has the offers of kind of overseas and stuff like that as and when is needed available. And yeah, don't even get me started on getting cars recovered if something happens to them overseas. Steph, obviously, from our Driver Classic, had that problem a few years ago with her Marina when she took it to Paris and had issues. We want to prove and use and enjoy our cars, and for a long time the joke was, don't worry about it, I've got recovery service. What, we might as well go out and enjoy ourselves, don't worry about it, we've got recovery service. But have we realistically got 9 hours to wait at the side of a road, in a car park, wherever we might be, for said recovery service? Or is it just me, or does that feel like quite disrespectful for something that we are paying to be able to use? So yeah, if you've got one that you feel has worked well, has been worthwhile, and does what it says on the can, recovers you in a timely, safe manner, and actually looks after you in the way that these services were initially set up to do, then I would love to know, because it's certainly something that in the next year, when recovery renewal comes up, I will definitely be considering, because what we've got at the moment just doesn't fill me with hope. And when I first got the car, I obviously knew very little about the car and how to keep it going, and you do have to learn more and more now what you can do at the side of the road and be prepared to do. Because realistically, as insane as it sounds, with Lewis's case, he probably could have done a roadside head gasket change far quicker than that recovery service got to him. Probably a little bit too long to do a clutch replacement at the side of the road for Nathaniel, but then again, 6 days to get the car back, maybe it would have been possible. But yeah, just insane. And I think it needs to be talked about more, because it's not just us that are using recovery services. On a hot day, the amount of overheated modern cars that I see at the side of the road because they've not been serviced as frequently as they should be or whatever, and they are parked at the side of the road awaiting recovery too. Like, people use recovery all the time for stuff, and so it's not just classic cars, but equally there is classic cars, and the service that's available should be available to work for them, and not be a case of, well, we've actually made them somewhat obsolete in the way that we have since redesigned some of our equipment. It's just, oh, it's infuriating. And I hope that none of you have ended up in similar situations, but if you have, I would be interested to hear, either in the comments or on YouTube, because whew, it's certainly an experience. Ironically, at that Morris Minor Young Members gathering at National, the theme for our branch alley was actually kind of recovery services, as an extra emergency service for those of us who loved our cars and had issues with them, but not really an emergency service with the speed at which recovery services get to you these days, and also fail to help out with a lot of the roadside stuff now. It's, yeah, I've rambled on for long enough. I hope you can sense my annoyance at the whole situation, and would love to hear if you have any resolutions to it, or if you think that we should be more publicly as a community coming together to call some of these services to action to make sure that they are actually helping us out. Thank you very much for listening, and in the meantime, drive safely, drive without the need for a recovery service, and happy motoring.